Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the psychology of being a pick me and how being a pick me actually leads to more jealousy, it leads to more envy, and it leads to hierarchy thinking. So, in this video, I'm going to be using YouTuber Blunt Girlie's talking points as an example of this. So let's take a look at this comment here. So she says, men will smash anything. But when I say men are not choosing you, I'm talking about a real commitment. And then she shows an emoji of an engagement ring. She says, if all you have is situationships and sneaky links, then that means men are not choosing you. It's something about you that is taking you out of the wife category. So I find this comment to be interesting, seeing as she recently did a live stream where she was bragging about how men jack off to Ebony Corn and saying that she fits the aesthetic of someone that would be on an Ebony Corn site. So do you see the hypocrisy there? So on the one hand, it's you're not being chosen because you're just being sexualized. But then here in this comment, she's saying if you're being sexualized, then that's bad. You're at the bottom. So it's like, which one is it? Is being a wife at the top of the hierarchy or is being jacked off to at the top of the hierarchy? Do you see the hypocrisy there? Now let's get into some of the talking points.
If you're the type of person that is sensitive to honesty, click off this video because I'm about to tell you the raw truth about why men are not choosing you. In the past, I have dated Polish men with accents. Every dude that I have dated had an accent because I was really pulling men.
Okay, so notice how she asserts her social authority by approximating herself to Polish men. So do you see what I mean about the psychology of women with inferiority complexes? They will brag about having sexual access to white men, but then they will create online YouTube beefs with mixed race women who are literally mixed with white. She's creating a rivalry with a community who is the descendants of white men mixed with blackness, while simultaneously bragging about being chosen for dates by Polish men with accents. So you know how I say they're two sides of the same coin? So she's almost like a passport bro. You know how the passport bro black men, they brag about having like a Dominican woman or somebody from another country with an accent. She's doing the same thing, basically giving this passport cis talking point, saying that I am a high value, unambiguous dark-skinned black woman because I got to date a white man from Poland who had an accent.
Some of you guys are just not cute. But a lot of us walk around not knowing how to do our makeup. Not saying that makeup makes you look prettier, but what I'm saying is if you don't know how to do it and you're wearing it a lot, it's making you look uglier. For example, those long eyelashes. Yes, those completely take away from you guys' beauty.
Another aspect of an inferiority complex is creating random social rules and restrictions around dark-skinned black women because they have a fear of rejection. So notice how she starts off by generalizing and saying wearing long eyelashes just makes you look uglier. But she doesn't specify what kind of eyelashes. There are different types of long eyelashes. Like every style of eyelash is not the big caterpillar ones. That's actually more rare. A lot of lash places don't even do those types of lashes. Those are really just strip lashes. So she doesn't even specifically say, hey, this exact type of lash, and show a picture of the lashes, this type of lash looks heavy on the eye. She doesn't say that. She just says long eyelashes in general. If you're a dark-skinned black woman, you look ugly. Meanwhile, there are plenty of dark-skinned black women walking around right now with long lashes on that are done well. And they look great. But when you have deep-rooted insecurities and the fear of not being chosen by a man, you start naturally limiting yourself. So you start putting all these random rules and restrictions on your phenotype. Like, oh, I'm dark-skinned. I can't wear red lipstick. Oh, I'm a dark-skinned black woman. I can't wear those long eyelashes. Oh, sometimes my makeup makes me look uglier because I'm a dark-skinned black woman. So do you see how she's approximating a random beauty enhancement with making dark-skinned women look ugly? She's generalizing her entire phenotype group just based on a couple of ratchet, random dark-skinned black women.
You guys look worse with long eyelashes. So if you're wearing long eyelashes, take it off. Men do not like it. You have to learn men. If you want to be chosen by men, you need to learn what men like. You guys do not know how to listen and be teachable and put the pride to the side and just hear what another person has to say, even if you don't agree with it. You don't know how to hear another perspective.
I also find it ironic that she's telling her unambiguous audience that they don't know how to hear another perspective, even if they don't agree with it, while she is simultaneously coming against the exotical space because she dislikes our pretty privilege and decentering men talking points. So, do you see the hypocrisy there? She can't even follow her own advice.
If you're trying to date a man that's leading you, that wants submission, you're gonna have to be able to stomach the hard truth.
So now she's talking about the concept of submission. So obviously that's a red pill talking point. Obviously that's more of a conservative talking point. So she admits that she dated white men. So she was willing to submit to those white men, and she is now submitting to a mixed race man in her marriage, allegedly. According to her own talking points, she is supposedly submitting to a high value, wealthy, biracial man. So notice how all of her talking points are about how to catch the white male gaze, how to catch the biracial male gaze. So do you see why I say that I do think that she has some deep rooted envy against myself and the rest of the exoticals? She views us as the female counterparts to the same men that she's trying to get access to submitting to.
You're going to have to be able to go with his vision, even though you don't agree with it. And from the way you guys respond to me in the YouTube comments, that lets me know that that is a flaw in your personality that men don't want to deal with.
Okay, so now she's exposing herself because not only does she support being male centered, but she's actually saying if you don't submit to what he wants, even if you disagree with it, then that's a flaw in your personality. So, not following what he wants, not going along with his desires, not going along with his vision, that actually goes even farther past just male centeredness. That's straight up internalized misogyny at that point because she's implying that you must give up your own vision, give up your own desires and your own wants so you can then follow a Polish man or a biracial man. Because I don't hear her talking about submitting to unambiguous black men. So I'm just going to assume that she's more into MLS or non black men. So she's telling her unambiguous black female audience to not follow your own purpose and your own path in life. No, you need to follow these biracial men and what they want. You need to follow these white men and what they want, to the point where you're not even allowed to wear certain types of eyelashes. Even if those lashes look good on you, you're not allowed to wear those because, the white man doesn't like it.
You guys are combative. You walk around with a bad attitude. And I know this because I live in a predominantly black city and I people watch and I observe.
All right, I had to pause it right there. So she said that her subscribers are combative and have bad attitudes. So isn't that interesting how she's accusing her subscribers of being combative with bad attitudes while simultaneously behaving in that same way herself? Also, she revealed that she lives in a predominantly black city. What are the socioeconomic statuses of predominantly black cities? Do you think that she's living in a super wealthy area with this high value Polish man or a high value biracial man? I'm not going to assume anything. I'm going to let you guys decide what you think. So she validated her talking points by saying that she is around a whole bunch of black people all the time with combative attitudes. Where do you think the majority of black people with combative attitudes live? Do you think they live in high value areas, or do you think they live in kind of more struggling types of areas?
It's the attitude. It's the personality that why you can't get a man. Because the reality is, most men are not marrying because of looks. They're not. If that was the case, the Instagram baddies will all be wifed up, but they're not.
Okay, so now she just unraveled another one of her talking points by saying that men don't marry women based on how pretty they are. So she's revealing her true talking point here, while simultaneously saying that she is higher value and that she does have pretty privilege because she got chosen by a man. So do you see how she exposed herself? And she also said that if men were marrying based on looks, then all of the IG baddies would be wifed up. So she's implying that IG baddies are the best looking. So isn't that interesting how she's coming against the exotical space? She thinks that I'm an IG baddie. She actually thinks that I'm an Instagram model just based on her videos where she was attempting to dox me. So that makes a lot of sense as to where that envy could come from then. Because if you're implying on your video that IG baddies are the best looking, and then you think that you've doxed me and it's an IG model with tens of thousands of subscribers, Well, that actually proves my talking point of her potentially being envious based on things like pretty privilege. She just admitted that being married does not mean that you have pretty privilege.
Most men are not marrying because of looks. They're not. If that was the case, the Instagram baddies would all be wifed up, but they're not. The OnlyFans models would all be wifed up, but they're not. The people on Love and Hip Hop who are drop dead gorgeous would all be wifed up, but they constantly experience issues in the department with men.
Okay, so she's actually revealing her internalized beauty standard there. She said that basically the IG baddies, the women on Love and Hip Hop, the OF girls, so that sort of aesthetic, those types of women are the epitome of beauty in her eyes. And what type of aesthetic, what phenotype do most of those women fit? Most of those women benefit from isms, colorism, texturism, or featureism. So that would make them an exotical.
But the plain Janes are not. The plain Janes are not. The plain Janes are getting wifed up because, first of all, men have been saying since the beginning of time that they like natural women, but that's, I digress.
Then she exposes herself again by admitting that most men wife up, quote, plain Janes. Okay, so if she's a wife and she says that most men wife up plain Janes, what does that make her? Based on her own talking points. And then she actually conflates being a plain Jane with being natural. This is something a lot of black women with inferiority complexes do. They conflate their natural state with being plain. And so that's why you see a lot of unambiguous women who feel the pressure to have the perfect makeup, the perfect wigs. If you guys saw her videos where she was attempting to dox Exoticals, notice how she was making fun of a lot of the Exoticals' wigs, their makeup, their clothing, because these are all, those things are not a part of your natural self. So she couldn't say anything about those women's face card because all those women, their face cards were not declining. They all had beautiful faces, beautiful bodies, beautiful hair. Everything about them was beautiful when it came to their natural selves. And so because she couldn't attack that, she chose to attack their aesthetic beauty enhancements, like an outfit or like a wig or something like that. But notice how here in her video, she's saying basically in black women's natural state that she views them as a plain Jane, which makes them more wifeable. It makes it more easy for them to get wifed up.
Men just want to wife up a personality that is doable with everyday life. No, you cannot be ugly, but as long as you're decent looking and you have a great personality, you will get the ring. They want to see, are you combative? Can you follow his lead?
Okay, so do you hear what she's implying here? She's saying that these natural black women, these plain Janes, these women are more docile. Their personality is more doable. It's more attainable for the average man. Remember, statistically speaking, around 87% of men in the United States make less than $100,000 per year. She just admitted that she is around a whole bunch of combative, mean, rude black people and lives in a predominantly black city. Okay, so just based on her own talking points, I'm going to assume that her husband is one of the men who makes less than 100K per year. So she's implying to her subscribers that the average man actually prefers an average woman. That's more doable for him. Those OnlyFans girls, the Love and Hip Hop girls, no. They're too visible. They've got a lot of social power. We all know that, especially if you're meeting the social media beauty standard, now you've got access to visibility. You've got access to fame. You've got access to wealthy men. You can go down an entirely different path if you're somebody that's like an IG baddie, for example. But the plain Janes, those ones are more doable.
Just even looking at this girl, how quick she just jumped on my back, that's unattractive.
Another thing I noticed about YouTuber Blunt Girly is that she seems to have a lot of problems with her own audience. So I noticed that she gets into arguments with her subscribers all the time. She'll be pulling up the pictures of her subscribers and commenters and making clapback videos against her own supporters. That's actually a sign that she's attracting the incorrect audience. That's a sign that she doesn't have a good enough brand to where she attracts a community that supports her, because I noticed that from the very beginning of her channel, she has been constantly defending herself and defending her stance against her own audience. So that's why I said that I think part of her envy for the exotical space comes from the fact that we have supportive communities here. This is a small but tight-knit community. You'll see a lot of exoticals collabing. You'll see a lot of us supporting each other in the comments section. You see exoticals with only 10,000 subscribers. They have entire members pages now. They have entire Patreons because that's how much support they're getting from their audience. So that's why I make the talking point of people being jealous of the exotical community, because we knew how to attract our tribe. So you can tell from the very beginning of her channel, she actually has a hard time kind of finding her tribe, finding who her content resonates with the most. And so she's getting in arguments with her own subscribers and commenters from day one.
Because I'm telling you right now, if you have problems in the department with men, it's one or the other. It's something about your looks, appearance, or hygiene, or it is your personality.
Okay, I had to pause it right there so I could point out the fact that she is saying that if you do not have a man, if you're single, it's because you have a bad look or a bad personality. So, do you see how male centered that is? Your relationship status determines how good of a personality you have and how good you look, even though just a few seconds ago, she said that men prefer plain Janes and they like to wife up plain Janes with doable personalities who will follow their vision and follow them in life.
When the men do it, it takes less than a minute for them to rank the women. When the women rank each other, it literally takes 10 minutes for them to rank each other.
Okay, so now she's implying that men do a better job at ranking women's attractiveness versus what women do to each other, because she's saying that women, we kind of overanalyze each other based on all these different aesthetic factors. But notice how when Blunt Girly got upset at the exotical space, the first thing she did was run to YouTube so she could attempt to dox the exoticals and rank their attractiveness. So which one is it? Are women able to properly rank other women's beauty or not? And notice her hierarchy thinking. She's using the word rank. Where do you rank? That is a red pill talking point. So she believes in more of kind of this 1 to 10 scale, like, so and so other person is prettier than you. So she believes that beauty is scarce. Beauty is a monolith. And if you do not fit, according to her own talking points, the IG baddie aesthetic or the OF aesthetic or the love and hip hop type of aesthetic, you are more of a quote unquote plain Jane who's natural. So that means natural hair, natural face, everything about you is natural, no beauty enhancements.
The reality is, if you desire to be a wife, you have to understand what men want because they are the ones issuing out the ring. Nowadays, it's not designed how it was back then in like the 1920s, where a man had to marry you in order to have access to a freaking female. Standards are just not like that nowadays. Nowadays, it's even harder to get a man to marry you. I will be the first to admit it.
Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought that she said that she was married to a well to do biracial man. What happened to that talking point? I thought that she was married and was a wife. So isn't it interesting that here in one of her older videos, she's talking about how it's not easy to get a man to marry you and that she's the first to admit it? Well, what happened? I thought that she was an authority on this. And isn't it interesting how ever since she began beefing with the exotical space, suddenly she's got this wealthy lifestyle, she's well-to-do, and she's married to a well-off, handsome, high-value biracial man?
It's hard to get a ring. So let me really, really study men and figure out what they want in order to get that ring. But no, they don't think like that. So you can't be over here, F men, I don't care to learn what they like. I don't care to learn the psychology behind men. And then also turn around and want a ring. When men are not really just handing out rings anymore because of today's society.
Okay, so now she's exposing herself even further by saying you cannot decenter men and still want a ring. So she's actually exposing you have to be male centered in order to get a ring, which is actually false. But in her case, she's saying you have to be male centered. Remember earlier, she said that it's easier for men to get with the plain Janes. Statistically, we know that men tend to make less than 100K per year. So it makes sense that the average man would want more of an average looking woman or a woman who doesn't outpace him or kind of outshine him.
And I'm going to talk about that whole pick me word. We'll talk about that in another video. But right now we're just focusing on colorism. It's not colorism. You're pretty or you're not. And this is coming from a dark skinned woman. I'm not brown skinned. I'm dark skinned.
It's also interesting that she goes out of her way to say that she is not brown skinned, but dark skinned. Because from what I remember, she allegedly talked about being brown skinned and being a Fenty Shade 400. So I pulled up pictures Fenty shades 390 and 400. So here on this channel, we actually voted for what we consider to be light skinned based on my audience, which is an international audience. I've got women from all over the world on this channel. You guys voted on Fenty 390 and above being light skinned. So Fenty 400, that's just past being light skinned. So you're kind of like a brown, darker skin, like the lighter shade of being dark skin. So from what I remember, she allegedly talked about being Fenty shade 400. So isn't it interesting how you've got her attempting to attack the exotical space? They're attempting to attack the women in this space, saying that, you're not as light skinned, or like you're darker than what you try to let on your YouTube channel. Meanwhile, she is actually saying she is not brown skinned. She is dark. She is a very dark skinned woman. Like, there's no mistaking that she is absolutely dark skinned. She has no approximation to even being called brown skinned. So she's implying here that she's got an ebony complexion. So none of that milk chocolate, cocoa, none of that cinnamon, Meg Thee Stallion. No, absolutely not. She's saying she is dark. But if you were to compare this woman in the photo of a Fenty shade 400, would you say that this woman is like very, very dark skinned to the point where she would never be called brown? Let's continue.
I am clearly chocolate. I'm not one of them women where you have to squint and like sit there and think a while to figure out, are they chocolate or are they not? No, I'm dark skinned. And I'm saying this, I'll give a little background about me. I have a good height, nice hourglass slim body. I guess my face is pretty. I feel like it's cocky to say that you're pretty, but I'm just saying that based on the way men act towards me. And also, if you want to take notes, I have a bubbly, friendly personality. Anybody who has met me will describe me. She's charismatic. She's bubbly. She has a great personality. A lot of you guys' personality sucks. I joined this Patreon one time and I left the same day because everybody in there, it was a Patreon full of Black women. Everybody in there had a stank attitude. I came in there friendly, willing to engage, willing to make friends, and that's attractive. Men are attracted by that when it comes to me. Everybody in there had the worst attitude. And I'm not trying to be rude, but for a physical description, all of the women were pretty much dark-skinned, overweight, and unattractive.
Okay, so I have to pause it right here because she talks about how she joined the Patreon and how most of the women in it happen to be basically from her phenotype group. And then she said that they essentially had bad attitudes and a lot of them were unattractive. So that would actually explain why Blunt Girly would be more attracted to the exotical space, where there are women who do not have her same phenotype. We do not have the same traumas. We don't have colorism, texturism, and featureism trauma all stacked into one. And so that actually explains as to why she came over to the exotical space or wanted to be more adjacent to us, because she feels like she doesn't fit in with other unambiguous Black women. She feels isolated because, according to her own talking points, she said she lives in a predominantly Black city. She says she's around tons of Black people who have bad attitudes. She now is saying that she was in a Patreon with Black women who had bad attitudes. So she felt isolated from her own phenotype group. And so she sought to approximate herself to the exotical space, hoping that she would fit in. And then once she felt like she couldn't measure up, now suddenly she's making it as if we are the ones who were like, we were excluding her. No, it's very clear that she already has isolation trauma, just based on this one video here. Just based on those talking points. She didn't fit in the Patreon. She didn't fit in her city. She doesn't fit in with the other unambiguous Black women. She's saying that the women are unattractive, that they've got bad personalities, that she's got a great personality, that they don't know how to get a man, and she knows how to get a man. Okay, so she's got a lot of things that she feels makes her stand out amongst other Black women. Her talking point is essentially, I'm not like other Blacks. She's saying, I'm not like other Black women, and these are all of my differences, and here's why. So, do you see what I mean when I say that she came to the exotical space, or she was attempting to almost ride our coattails because she felt like she could approximate herself to us, but then once she started to see the options and kind of the experiences we had, which were kind of more opposite to what she's talking about, especially in regards to men, do you see how that could trigger her isolation wounds? Do you see how that could trigger her rejection wounds? And even in regards to Black women, there's still a difference with how exoticals are perceived, because a lot of Black women view exoticals as their internalized beauty standard. So from the time that we are children, we've got grown adult Black women fawning over our hair, fawning over our eyes, fawning over our skin complexions, fawning over our facial features, fawning over our racial mixes. So even our childhood experiences with Black women, even though it includes envy, it also includes pedestalization from Black women. So Blunt Girly hasn't experienced that, according to her own talking points. She's saying that she has only experienced the combativeness of Black women. So one of the differences between exoticals versus pretty, unambiguous women is we also receive the pedestalization and sometimes the fetishization from Black women as well. Okay, so we are used to sometimes Black women trying to be our friend or trying to ride our coattails or trying, so that's why I feel like sometimes people accused Blunt Girly of essentially being the Kelly Rowland of the exotical space. They accused her of being a sidekick. Well, that's because that genuinely is the lifestyle that a lot of us exoticals have. So yes, we do deal with jealous Black women. We do deal with like catty Black women, but we also deal with some Black women who put us on a pedestal. And they will tell us, oh, I wish my hair looked like yours. I wish my skin looked like yours. I wish my features looked like yours. How do I do my makeup like you? I want to be your friend. I think you're pretty. So almost like this fawning over us. Because remember, there are plenty of different ways that people respond to trauma. So if you think about unambiguous Black women who have colorism, texturism, and featureism trauma, I think there are 4 different ways to respond to trauma. There's fight, flight, freeze, and then fawn. So there will always be the unambiguous Black women fawning over us exoticals as a trauma response to their own issues that they went through. So I didn't think Blunt Girly was doing that because I don't stereotype unambiguous Black women negatively, believe it or not. I don't instantly stereotype them based on their race. So that's not how I perceived her at first, but she's actually revealing it just based on how she flipped on the exotical space so easily and so viciously. She's revealing the fact that her presence in this space was actually just a trauma response to feeling isolated in her own community, which was the unambiguous community. So she felt rejected by unambiguous Black women, and then she comes over here and she feels rejected by exoticals. And so now she's running to men because she feels like that's the only group that she feels hasn't rejected her.
So it's like you're not cute and a bad attitude. Yeah, that's why you're single. I was just in the Patreon, just, looking to make friends. I'm a housewife. I have me and my man, but sometimes I need that girl time,
Okay, so notice how in this piece of content, she's calling herself a housewife. But remember, earlier she just said that she lives in a predominantly Black combative environment and that she lives around people who have bad attitudes in a predominantly Black city. And notice how she kind of vacillates back and forth between claiming that she's a housewife or claiming that she lives that lifestyle, but then she never referred to her man as her husband. I would be insulted if my spouse referred to me as his girl. Imagine your husband is on YouTube and then he says, oh yeah, that's my girl. What do you mean that's your girl? That's your wife. That's the person you dedicated your life to. So I find it suspicious that she never referred to her husband with that word husband until after she got into a fight with the exotical space. And she also said that she joined a Patreon so that she could have that girl time, but I thought that she complained about the exoticals being parasocial. I thought she doesn't support parasocial relationships. Joining a Patreon to make female friends, that is a parasocial relationship. So which one is it? So do you see the hypocrisy there? So she's making fun of the exoticals. She said that I was being parasocial by being friendly towards her on the internet. And she just admitted that she wanted to make friends on the internet, so she joined a Patreon.
I guess they were in there trying to work on themselves. And I actually came and I told them the truth. I said, we have 400 people in this chat and only 15 are talking because you guys are unfriendly. You guys are unwelcoming. You guys repel people. People have always told me with my personality, I literally attract people towards me. People have told me that. They say that I have this vibrant aura about me that makes people want to come. I have been described as warm.
Okay, so now she is trying to socially position herself as being more friendly than the other Black women in the Patreon because she said that she attracts people to herself because she has such a warm and friendly personality. Well, if you go and look at her most previous 6 videos, Go and look at the most recent videos that she's made. Do you think that that is a good representation of her personality? Because it's like, okay, which one is your real personality? Is it who you were before, or is it who you're behaving as now? Because if you look at my videos where I'm beefing with people, this is technically a beef video. Look at the way that I address my enemies. Look at the way that I address the people I'm quote unquote beefing with versus the way that she addresses the people that she's beefing with. By the way, she never, to this day, not once, has mentioned what I've done wrong. Not once has she mentioned anything that any of those other women have done wrong that she has doxed. She's never mentioned anything that those women have done wrong to her. Not to mention the fact that doxing actually goes against YouTube's community guidelines. So if she attempts to report this video, I could easily report all 5 or 6 or however many videos she made. I could easily report all of those videos, and that would be 3 strikes on her channel. But notice how in this video she's essentially bragging about how friendly and warm and popular she is and how she draws and attracts people to her. And if popularity shows how friendly you are, wouldn't that technically make me the more friendly one then? Since I technically have more people that are supporting me, wouldn't that make me the friendlier one?
And I told them the truth about themselves. I told them, this is why nobody talks in the chat, because you guys are rude. I was bringing up just random talking points, and they was like, we don't talk about that in this chat.
Okay, so the reason that she named for getting upset is actually an invalid reason. You can't go onto somebody else's platform and in someone else's community and get mad that you don't have the loudest voice in the room. So do you see how she's actually repeating a cycle here? She just exposed herself. So she went into a Patreon. She attempted to state whatever her talking points are, or she wanted to tell people about themselves according to her own talking points. And they said, hey, this is not the space for you to express those opinions because it's not her space that she created. And now here we are today in 2025 where she's doing the exact same thing with the Exotical space. She came over and apparently she was trying to express her points, and she didn't feel like she was the loudest voice or the most influential in the Exotical space. So then she decides to turn on the entire space as if the space is invalid rather than taking accountability for her role in trying to come into someone else's space that they have built and then trying to dominate the conversation. That's not how life works. And this is actually a very common problem that we see in Black spaces today, where you'll have Black people, they will go to white nightclubs, white neighborhoods. They try to date in white Hollywood. They want the white music industry to change. All of these spaces that are dominated by people who are not themselves. Instead of building their own platforms, instead of building their own niche on YouTube, instead of building their own talking points, they will try to come into other people's Patreons, come into other people's YouTube niches like the Exoticals. And then when they are not the most dominant voice in the room, then they get upset and then they try to say, oh, well, that whole space is messed up. Well, that whole space is a cult. Well, everybody over there is rude. So do you see how it's everybody else is the problem except for me? Everybody else just has a low IQ except for me.
Check yourself. Really check yourself, analyze yourself. Do this method. Is it your weight? Because if it's your weight, that might be repelling men. Okay, now that we've got the weight down, or it's not the weight, if your BMI does not say healthy, it's your weight. If that's out the way, look at your face. Are you pretty? If you got to sit there and really think about if you're pretty, you're not pretty. Because this is just a 1-second decision. When we first look at you, are you pretty or you're not?
Also, notice how at the beginning of her channel, she's giving almost these watered down versions of my talking points. So I talk about pretty privilege, but I do discuss it from way more of a nuanced perspective because I don't actually believe in the concept of hierarchical beauty. I don't believe like, oh, you're objectively pretty and this other person is objectively ugly because of their genetics. I don't necessarily believe that. But notice how she's attempting to kind of imply that she has knowledge on, what's considered being pretty privileged and what's not. But then she doesn't go into detail about what aspects of your beauty give you pretty privilege and what aspects of your beauty take away from the pretty privilege other than weight. She mentioned weight earlier, but that's the only thing that she was able to mention. She couldn't go into detail. So do you see how that lines up with my talking point about the envy? Because I think part of the reason that she got upset with the exotical space is because, first of all, we actually have pretty privilege over here. So, regardless of what others think of our makeup and our wigs and our acne scars or our weight or, how we look, our facial expressions, whatever, regardless of what others think, society has told us that we are pretty. And we have plenty of sources of micro validation to prove that. So, of course, we're naturally going to have a lot of authority to talk about pretty privilege because we have many different experiences with it. So she's discussing pretty privilege as if she's an authority, but then she gives nothing to back up her talking points. All she says is, if you look in the mirror and within 1 second you don't decide that you're pretty, then it means you're not pretty. Meanwhile, people have the audacity to say that us exoticals, that we don't know what we're talking about. So you're telling me that I was able to create over 1,000 videos and that there are dozens of different exotical content creators who make videos on this subject all because we don't know what we're talking about? Meanwhile, you've got a girl on YouTube talking about pretty privilege, but it's literally just one sentence. It's just one passing sentence. It's very vague. So her own subscribers, I can see why her subscribers would get upset with her because she does not do a good job describing her talking points. She doesn't give a standard of beauty. Well, now she has actually revealed her standard of beauty, which is exoticals, but she didn't give her audience a standard of beauty to go by. She didn't give them the benchmark. So my question for Blunt Girly is, what are the benchmarks of beauty according to your own talking points? What skin tone? What nose size? What nose to lip ratio? Because if it's the golden ratio, that actually is supporting Eurocentric beauty standards. The golden ratio was created by European people. It was created to favor European people. If you do not believe me, please go and look up who the golden ratio says are the most attractive and least attractive ethnic groups. According to the golden ratio, Black people and Asian people would be lower on the scale because Black people's noses and lips are too big, and then Asian people's eyes would be too small. So obviously I disagree with that. I think that every person has biases. There's no such thing as a perfectly logical, perfectly smart person. And that includes the person that created the golden ratio. I do not deify other people's intellect. So just because some random Roman guy made up the golden ratio, or he says, hey, a lot of things in nature follow the golden ratio. Everything in nature actually does not follow the golden ratio, but just because somebody comes up with a theory, or they come up with something that has merit, and they provide anecdotal evidence, it doesn't make it the end all be all of my talking points. So I think that her issue is that she has a tendency to lean more towards black and white thinking. So it's kind of like if she thinks that somebody is smart, or if she thinks that someone sounds smart, then she's just going to follow whatever their talking points are. And I don't think that's really the best way to go because, obviously that makes you more of a follower. That makes you more of a watered down version of someone else. So that makes sense as to why she's had a hard time finding her identity and finding her niche on YouTube. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.